Crisis between Earth 1 and Earth 2, but not Earth 3. Forget about Earth 3. We've been charting the Crisis stories leading up to Crisis on Infinite Earths, and now we have enough for a Criseless. That was someone's suggestion for the name for the Crisis playlist, and I like it. So far, time of recording, all the crises have brought something unique to the table. The first brought back the JSA, the second introduced the Crime Syndicate, the third played with an alternate timeline and introduced individual moral variants between the Earth's characters. And then there were 4. Crisis between Earth 1 and 2 is a lot. There's a lot happening in this one, but it also leaves little impact comparatively. So let's take a look and discuss. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and let's see which JSA member gets to be added to the roster, because remember, rotating membership. Today, it's the Sandman, Wesley Dodds, gotta specify, and Wildcat, can't forget Wildcat. Now, Crisis between Earth 1 and Earth 2 is from 1966, and begins in Justice League of America 46 and concludes in 47, and it's part of the annual team-up that was going on between the JSA and the JLA. Both these issues are written by Gardner Fox, the pencils are by Mike Sekowsky, but this time the inks are different. Before this, all the crises were inked by the same person, Bernie Sachs. Today, we have inks by Sid Green. It does give the issues a different energy. It's harder to note on the digital recolorings, but it's there in the original versions. The teaser page does have this fun imagery of the JSA and the JLA trying to keep the Earths apart physically, because one of the core issues of this crisis is that the Earths are about to crash into each other. They are slowly heading towards a collision point. Also, there's this giant antimatter man coming towards them, and he'll destroy the universe if he touches any matter. That is also a completely separate problem from the crashing Earths. They have a lot to do, these issues. The comic opens on Hawkman, Earth 1 Hawkman. He is closing in on some fur hijackers, but when they go through a fog, there's a different car on the other side. An armored car, and it's now shooting at him. This in no way breaks Hawkman's stride. A criminal is a criminal. Dipping and darting, the winged wonder whips wisps of mist in front of him. I feel like I should have said winged. Trucker armored car, those men are criminals. One thing's sure, I'm not leaving her empty-handed. This guy's jaw makes too handy a target to resist my personal touch. Nope, go home, Hawkman, you're trying too hard. Also, I'm sure he'd rather have the fist than the mace to the face. Everyone is going to be very punny these issues. Now, we do get to see where the other truck went. It materialized on Earth 2, where now the Sandman will deal with them. And he's got this special sand gun that can do all kinds of things. No gas gun today. Today he's got a gun that can make sand walls, then turn things into glass for some glass handcuffs. Wesley just takes the fact that the crooks don't recognize him as evidence that he's been retired too long. And unlike Hawkman, he asks about the truck before he knocks them out.
Talk up, how'd you change that armored car into a hijacked truck?
Sock! Very 1966 sound effect. We get to see the scenario play out a couple more times. Dr. Midnight gets to show off the new weapon that he has, and it's terrifying. Hawkman and Sandman are not the only crime fighters wondering what strange force has come upon their normal, orderly worlds. For instance, at this moment on Earth 2. I diagnosed this case as a bank robbery. Now I'm here to operate. Trouble ahead, it's Doc Midnight. Ooh, a nickname. Now, he's got a cryotuber this issue that's going to replace his usual blackout bomb. He says that those were old-fashioned. They weren't old-fashioned when you used them against Owlman on Crisis on Earth 3. That was just a couple years ago. The cryotuber, as mentioned, is way more terrifying, though, as he uses it to make the criminals dance for the doctor. The nerves of the human body control all its actions and reactions. By stimulating them in a certain way, I can control what these thugs do. Scared. Also, it can freeze things. It's multi-purpose. Cryogenics, cryotube. Now, he ends up being transported to Earth 1, and Batman gets taken to Earth 2. Not in exactly the same place, though, because Batman ends up punching Wildcat. We get a few more things are topsy-turvy kind of panels, and some of them are clearly meant to be humorous, like people materializing at the wrong sports match, as the wrong person at a wedding. But as this is going on, we cut to the Spectre. He's been sent by Starman to investigate some asteroids that have left their orbit and were coming towards Earth. Apparently, Starman says that he was off on an urgent case, more urgent than the objects hurtling towards the Earth. I really want to know what Starman was doing. He's just chilling on a moon somewhere with his cosmic rod. Now, as the Spectre goes off, he's sucked off course. And also, which seems to be the theme of this issue, but wait, there's more. Solomon Grundy is suddenly pulled towards Earth from his space prison. Solomon Grundy debuted in All-American Comics 61 in 1944 as a villain for the Golden Age Green Lantern Alan Scott. And Alan Scott's solution for dealing with him was often just to send him off into space. Space can deal with him. The flinging he is returning from in this issue is from Showcase 55 in 1965, so it's a recent flingage. That was Green Lantern and Dr. Fate in that story. They all take their cues from Alan, like, oh, it's okay to just hurl our villains into space. Now on Earth 1, they're starting to try to figure out just what is going on, and they're also trying to eliminate actually letters by having the League members explain that they can't just vibrate to the other Earths like they normally do. And now Solomon Grundy is on Earth 1, and elsewhere, Blockbuster is awakening in the Alfred City Memorial Foundation from that first time that Alfred died. He got better, which is why I still hold out hope time recording for something more in that spectral hallucination, what we're doing in Batman 2025. Now the story needs to take out some more time to explain why these two, Grundy and Blockbuster, are going to be a significant threat given the roster that we have on both Earth 1 and Earth 2, even with some characters swapped, because we've got some magic users and the like, and people who could, in theory, take out these villains. And the answer is, they've become even more powerful. Thus, our superheroes of Earth 1 are about to be challenged by only one mammoth monster, but what an adversary Solomon Grundy is going to be. For imprisoned in the globe of striped magic, yellow bands, and power ring green bands, he has absorbed some of Dr. Fate's powers, as well as those of Green Lantern. Also, they don't explain it here, but Blockbuster is later going to get a smaller narration box explaining that he too has absorbed some energies. That's why he's more powered. The story then cuts to a frustrated Adam Ray Palmer, which doesn't seem important to the issue, but is actually the most important thing going on. Though he has been helping his Italian exchange scientist assistant, Enrichetta Negrini, in her greatest experiment, Ray Palmer quickly loses interest since, I can't help my fellow League members on whatever case it is that occupies them. I'm stuck here as Ray Palmer. Can you lower your fists back there, Ray? Most of the rest of this part is the heroes who are on Earth 1 battling Solomon Grundy of Earth 2. Gotta remember where people are from because they're swapping. And really, they're having to give it their all until Hawkman pulls Grundy up by his hair, and then Hal makes this magic carpet that they all hop on to just wail on Grundy. Footloose, but not very fancy-free, the swampland savage is turned into a human punching bag high above the surface of the planet. Believe Grundy's beating so that we can check in on the Spectre. The Spectre has encountered a far greater threat, a being from the antimatter universe, heading towards the Earth through the borderland, the warp space.
With my spectral powers, I can sense that it comes from an antimatter universe. If it comes in contact with solid matter of my universe, instant destruction.
This is one of those suspending moments, lest one fall down a rabbit hole. It's always interesting where that hurdle can come up because it's different for different people. No particles or anything else have brushed him at any point. Why do they not count? They do explain why he can touch the Spectre by saying that the Spectre is not composed of matter. And the little fight that the two have does have some really fun panels. It's just amusing the way the Spectre is drawn. He's very cartoonish.
My head's swelling up like a balloon. Every time I come into contact with the antimatter man, something terrible happens to me.
As the discarnate detective desperately seeks to rally his ebbing powers.
I'll suspend time itself so I get too late. He's hit me so hard. He's driven my legs up into my body. And that sound effect is Bob.
I love disgruntled, smushed Spectre. He looks like a bobblehead. In general, as you may have already gleaned, this issue has a bit more of a comedic tone. Miles will vary on whether one finds that funny or not, and whether they feel it marries well with the layers and the level of threat that the story is presenting, which, if you look at it on the surface, is incredibly high. The Spectre now sees that there are two reasons that the Earths are potentially doomed. One is this antimatter man heading towards them, and then also the fact that they are slowly coming closer together. And he is the only one who knows about this problem. So to stop this, he puts himself physically in between the two Earths and is holding them apart. You don't even have to mention Atlas because the comic does. And then, outdoing the legendary Atlas with the world upon his shoulders, the ghostly guardian holds off one Earth with his hands, the other with his feet.
There, for a while at least, there'll be no collision. But how long can I maintain this position?
We're gonna find out how long the Spectre can plank for. We still have time this issue to see the other heroes battle Blockbuster on Earth 2. Now, Batman is here narratively because he's the only person who can calm Blockbuster down. This has been established over in his stories. But in order to do that, he has to do it as Bruce Wayne. So he's done it by taking his mask off, which is something that he just instantly does here too. He just takes his cowl off. While he is keen to help the situation, unfortunately, Wildcat was already in there with a punch. He was already punching Blockbuster and so gets knocked out into Bruce, which knocks him out too. And that way we get to see Dr. Fate and the Sandman take on Blockbuster and struggle, which for Dr. Fate is quite the feat, which is why the narration box has to explain how much extra power Blockbuster has absorbed, because in some of the earlier stories we've seen Dr. Fate handle almost all the threats single-handedly. So this is one of those ones where for some they're going to go with it, for others it's going to be a power scaling moment. Thankfully Bruce wakes up, and I don't know why, but I really like the panel of him trying to calm Blockbuster down. There's just this cautious vulnerability in it. Bruce unmasking is something we recently saw time of recording in Batman #1 in 2025. He did it with Croc, but here one can see that it has some classic roots. It is not a new thing. So we're casting back to the caring elements of Batman, which have been there for a very long time. There are many ways that you can depict Batman, and you can find evidence for a lot of them. But Batman cares. Then, with a happy shout, he drops Dr. Fate and catches hold of his friend, his pal, his buddy.
Oh boy, even when he likes you, he's so strong he hurts you.
And when the Justice Society members come too,
You've revealed your true face to us. Well, doesn't matter, since we're on Earth too, and
You're from Earth 1. I mean, you can just say that you don't care, Wildcat, because it does kind of matter, because some of the people on Earth 1 and 2 are the same people. Not everybody, but some people. And that is the case with Batman. Earth 2 Batman is also Bruce Wayne. He's just older. They haven't really dealt with that too much, though, at the time this comic was written, but they're going to. But maybe that Bruce didn't want all you to know, since you didn't in this story. The history of the JL heirs learning each other's identity is fascinating, and how and why they come to know it, they're fairly entertaining stories. There are a couple that stand out. Ultimately, they decide it's for the best after their body swapped, and no, not the later body swap that will lead to Identity Crisis. That's with supervillains. In issue 122, The Great Identity Crisis, which is a Dr. Light story, pre-later Identity Crisis, so fun Dr. Light. Wait, that has Crisis in the title. Maybe we'll have to cover it. In that one, the League get body swapped, and so they don't really notice, and they try and go about their lives in each other's bodies, and so at the end of that, they decide that they should know so that they can be less conspicuous should that happen in the future. However, this is a change from an earlier story in Justice League 19, where it was claimed that it was safer for them not to know because it protected their loved ones if it meant that there was a secret even from each other. Because that way, if there was any kind of reveal, then they couldn't lead villains to their loved ones. I mean, with all the betrayals and possessions coming down the line, I can see it both ways. As for this story, on Earth 1, Ray Adam Palmer still cannot get his size and weight control device to working. I believe I'm succeeding, Ray. I am doing what I set out to do. Oh, it's so exciting. I'm talking in code because this needs to be a secret till next issue. I wish I could succeed in what I'm trying to do. This is also a panel I really like from this issue. I feel like it has meme potential. I posted it. Some people said that it reminds them of a page from the Super Dictionary, which I can totally see, for the word succeed. However, the more dire problems are looming. The Spectre is getting crushed smaller and smaller. The antimatter man is walking slowly towards the Earths, which brings us to the next issue, the bridge between Earths, the Spectre. This issue opens on the Atom, still frustrated, but now the story is actually going to give us some more explanation as to why. It's going to tell us the things that we need to know to explain why everything is happening. What's going on is that everything is occurring because of his assistant's experiment. She is trying to shrink the space in between planets. All my life I've dreamed of warping space so man won't need spaceships to travel to the distant planets. Now with my machine, man will be able to step off Earth directly onto Mars or Venus. You're gonna have to beat the teleportation people. Look out for them. They're gonna be after you. Why transport a person when you can fold space itself? Now this machine is what's causing all of the topsy-turviness because it's low-key working, just not in the way that she expects it to. She doesn't know about all of the multiverse and those kind of things. But it was this machine that started the Earths coming towards each other and was also the reason that people started swapping around on the Earths. It's folding space across dimensions. Now when Enrichetta leaves the room, Ray is able to act on his observation that his palms are hot. So he concludes that's from an overload of power and not through all the rage he's been exhibiting silently through his panels. He then assumes that the only thing that's different is it must be her machine. I like that he assumes that it has to be something happening in the room with him. If it was something somewhere else, this entire story would have been completely different. But it is the machine in the room with him, so he turns it off. We don't see Enrichetta for the rest of the issue, so we don't know how she reacts to this. I assume poorly. After turning it off though, he's able to shrink, and that's the most important thing for him in this story. But by turning off the machine, a couple of the people swap Earths. And by a couple of people, just the villains, so that we get to see them then fight the other set of heroes on the other Earths. It's only fair. There is a panel here where unmasked Batman, Sandman, and Wildcat throw custard pies at Solomon Grundy, which is a visual for the ages. Also, Dr. Fate turns cement blocks that Grundy was going to throw at them into pies. There's a reason, but still pies. Also, this panel, Black Canary trying a judo throw on Blockbuster. A more comedic issue means that people either aren't bringing their A game, or if they are, it's not working. However, while this has been going on, the machine being turned off has allowed Dr. Fate to be able to use his magic to see between the Earths. And so at this point, he sees that the Spectre is out there literally holding them apart. And also there's some kind of antimatter man just casually walking towards the Earth. So he stops the fights that the heroes are having, because this is the much bigger problem, and then brings them up to the warp space in between. Meanwhile, Hal says there's something he's gonna do about the villains to make sure they don't rampage. It's meant to be a surprise, but what it is, and what one can probably even guess from that, is that he's gonna have them fight each other. So they're gonna be over there, we're not gonna see that happen, we're gonna see all the stuff in space. Now they're gonna have the big fight against Antimatter Man, who is walking towards the Earths across the Spectre's back. And so Dr. Fate puts a ring around the middle so some of them can fight around the middle and not touch him, and the others are gonna take the top, the others the feet. To the attack with fists and knuckles, super weapons, and raw courage, the members of Justice League and Justice Society hurl themselves at a foe whose very touch means instant destruction. Do they hesitate? Dilly-dally? Perish forbid. They take their battle stations and I'm putting my whole soul into it. Are Hawkman's boots not made of matter? Also, Antimatter Man just looks annoyed. It's because of all the puns, isn't it? I'll
bat this man around Batman style.
I think we should let Antimatter Man reach the Earth. We had a good run. The people at his feet, at least, are not touching him. He lashes back at all of them with this eerie energy, which does things like turn their weapons against them. The construct fist is crushing Hal. Hawkman's wings are crushing him. The Flash has comically huge shoes. It kind of gets more horrific down at the feet where they get overwhelmed by things like the cryotube's ice, the sand. Everybody's getting smothered down there. Black Canary's hair is growing super long. The JLA and JSA, however, are able to help each other largely through Looney Tunes logic. For example, Dr. Fate is in a cage that's falling, and Green Lantern says he can't help because it's yellow, so it has to go all the way to the bottom. But the Spectre is able to make it bounce back up by making his body extra elastic. And then the top heroes grab the cage and smash it into the Antimatter Man's jaw. And then it's open season on Antimatter Man. This is the second fight in this where everybody just pounds upon the villain. Attacking all at the same time, the Justice League and Justice Society members topple their foe from his precarious perch on the Spectre, thrusting him out into the vast gulfs of warp space. Earth is off limits to him.
My magic probing of Antimatter Man's mind tells me he is an explorer from his own antimatter universe. He regards everything that has happened to him on his journey, his fights with Spectre and with us, as unfamiliar hazards of warp space travel, which he must overcome to reach his destination.
Can you imagine his log? Captain's log. Can't go through warp space without getting punched. He should have gone through it faster. Maybe at warp 5. I know. Boo. I'll go home. But wait. This Contra Cat is a claw-happy fighter who relishes a bang-up, rock'em sock'em rhubarb. He hits out and tuck back your eyeballs, readers. This is a moment of truth. The Justice League and the Justice Society boys are really catching it. And Black Canary. Hold it, guys and gals. Time out for a breather as we check on the Atom. The 60s slang is indeed too much. This does look like a job for the Atom, who is inside of Emery Chedda's machine and is able to look out into warp space through that somehow. And also, he's able to shrink down super small and transport through that viewer over to where the Spectre is. Because even though he's turned her machine off, the space between the Earths, it's still shrinking. He needs to do something about it. And he goes and he tells the Spectre his plan, which of course involves shrinking him. If he can't solve the problem by shrinking, Ray's not interested. So the plan is shrink the Spectre really small, expand him back out, problem solved.
Fortunately, these approaching Earths are in warp space, where their gravitational attraction for each other would destroy them anyhow.
Yes, we don't want to question any of the science in this tale. The expansion and explosion pushes the Earths back into their normal orbits. The shock waves also blast Antimatter Man back to his universe. And that just leaves Solomon, Grundy, and Blockbuster. As for Blockbuster and Grundy, they have become best friends. They knocked the hate out of each other. The League and JSA decide they're going to let Emery Chedda keep experimenting with her space warp machine, but also never tell her what it did, so she has no idea what it caused, and so she can just keep turning it on, and this can keep happening, I guess. The Atom didn't sabotage it or anything, or make it so that it can't cause this kind of effect. Are they going to have to keep exploding the Spectre every other week? Is this going to be his new workout, just stretching and keeping the Earths apart? However, they resolve this by Hal saying that the heroes will always be there to set the world right, except for the times that they aren't. The end. Crisis between Earth 1 and Earth 2 is going for a lighter tone and a bit more of an overtly comedic, wacky kind of thing with lots of gags, both written and visual. And it's balancing that against what would be without that a very dire situation, which makes it seem very unserious, as the kids say. In general, in terms of a story, this one feels a tad unbalanced. In terms of everything going on, the Antimatter Man and Earth's about to collide is the more important danger, but also it's not enough to carry two whole issues entirely by itself, which requires there to be something else. And in this story's case, it's the addition of Solomon, Grundy, and Blockbuster in their fights, which end up feeling a tad like padding. They also do feel very separate because at the end they're just pushed off to do their own thing. The fact that that plot can be cast aside so easily adds to that kind of padded feeling when one is reading it. This one is just not as coherent overall when compared to the other Crises, and as its own two-parter, it's a bit choppy, and in general, this one requires a lot more suspension of disbelief. And for those who enjoy poking holes, there are lots of opportunities to do so. However, for those who enjoy the whimsical, the fantastical, the just going with it, this has a lot of that. This is definitely one of the more imaginative ones. It also has some fun moments, some really fun panels, and some funny fights. And it does, as these team-ups tend to do, try to give everybody a moment to do something. Just as a side note, the Antimatter Man did pop up later in Grant Morrison's Green Lantern run, which did a bunch of stuff with Cord and the Antimatter universe, so it does make sense to situate an Antimatter Man there. In general, these two are very much an embrace it and go with it kind of Crisis, less so than a let's focus on the threat and danger to the Earth type of Crisis. So for some, this is gonna land. For others, it might be too silly, too wacky. They may wish it's a bit more streamlined. Personally, I'm a bit in the middle. Some very fun panels, very creative. But in general, I just couldn't get as into it as the other crises we've covered. And the overall crisis history, which is part of the lens I'm examining this through, it doesn't add nearly as much as some of the others. And as its own thing, it has its moments, but it does feel a tad padded, a bit stretched. Those are just my thoughts. What did other people think? At the time, too. To the letters column. We've been reading some of the fan letters in this series just to get a sense of the fandom headspace and people's responses, and it's a good time. However, it's also a long time. People would write in depth, but it's worth going through, just kind of get the lay of the land. And this one's got some interesting letters. We have effusive praise, we have shots fired at other fans, so let's get to it. It's letter time. JLA 47, together with 46 of course, was a literary masterpiece, a work of art. These are the only words in the entire English language which really do DC's titanic success story of the year true justice. In this letter, I will attempt to list this story's main characteristics and attributes, which are sure to turn into a classic. The art featured in 46 and 47 was an achievement of which every other comic artist in the business should be drooling over in envy. From the cover, a once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment, to the very last panel of the story, it was breathtaking. Never have I seen such a magnificent display of fiery colors and lifelike illustrations of our heroes in my life. It literally brought the magazine to life. That's not literal. And added zest to the story, the like of which I have never before known. And I feel that special notice should be taken of the fabulous drawings of space itself, which were numerous throughout both issues. I don't know how Mike Sikowski and Sid Green managed to draw those many star constellations and galaxies, but the 3D effect and background they added to the fight scenes were priceless. As for the story itself, as I said before, masterpiece. It was a prime example of how a team functions, how every member unites with the others to work as one, and this is the one trait which the Justice League dwells upon most, to the point of perfection. Being a story of such great length, I must say that each fact fit remarkably well with the rest of the yarn. That is to say, nobody went seemingly unexplained or was left up in the air, as occasionally happens, and the story as a whole was a fairly credible and quite easy to understand without a lot of scientific double talk, which frequently dominates the JLA stories. There is no doubt in my mind that you'll receive 1,000 letters saying that the story was a flop. To the effect that Antimatter Man was a total impossible space villain. And maybe that's why this one's so glowing. God, prevent the floppage. Quite contrary to this opinion, I thought that Antimatter Man was positively one of the Justice Leaguers' best nemesis yet. He is the kind of opponent who really poses a threat to them, a true obstacle to overcome, and one that requires as much brain to be used as brawn. To expect another episode in the JLA comparable to this one in the near future, or for that matter any time at all, would be cheating. Stories like this one come only once in a lifetime, but let's keep our fingers crossed anyway and look toward the future. Dear editor, oh boy, if I thought part 1 of the annual JLA JSA bash was crazy, I've got to admit the ending of part 2 was pure insanity. Though the story was serious and the dangers that threatened Earth 1 and 2 definitely on the massive side, my basic reaction was hysterical laughter. How did you dare make Solomon Grundy a good guy? The fans will boil you in oil. It's all right for the blockbuster to have occasional attacks of friendliness, but Solomon Grundy? Here's a creation straight out of the golden age, calculated to strike terrific terror into the hearts of all ordinary mortals, and you go and destroy the fearsomeness once and for all? Never again can that massive hulk of inhumanity make us quake and tremble. Oh, Irene, you'll see. I'm not criticizing your somewhat heavy-handed try for humor. Personally, I enjoyed it immensely. That was backhanded. It made the story for me, but I think you let yourself in for a lot of trouble. The conservative element of fandom is also the most eloquently vocal, and I'm pretty sure some of the opinions you receive will burn the paper they're written on and still be suitable for publication. There's the rub. The old problem about humor in a comic mag has always been acute in the JLA stories, with Snapper Carr bearing the brunt, but this story is guaranteed to reopen the subject with a vengeance. Good luck. You're going to need it. You see, with these letters, you can kind of get a little bit of a window into some of the fan discourse that was going on at the time. It's fascinating. I'm only going to read 2 this episode because they're all novel length. That last letter with the shots at certain type of fans is so fascinating and feels like it would be entirely at home time of recording. Fandom is still very much the same in many ways, for better and for worse. But that was Crisis between Earth 1 and Earth 2. Tell me your thoughts. Where does it rank for you? Did you enjoy it? Could you just go with it? Was it too silly for your blood? Are you ready to move on to the next crisis point? Share your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please follow YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Hype. So many things to do. Thanks so much for taking some time to discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.